What's the word, y'all? Welcome back to the recap. Now that the Called Games show is officially out, and you should go watch that or listen to it on audio platforms, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Now that is out, people have been asking me heavily, Kenny, is the recap dead? No, as long as I have something to talk about in the NBA world, I will. And I know y'all want to see the recaps way more often than where they're dropping, but sometimes I just don't have nothing to say. Today's not one of those days. Other than Jayson Tatum dropping 60 and leading his team to the third biggest comeback of all time, the rest of the games were mid, like not super fun to watch. I mean, basketball is fun in itself, but like not super intense competitive games. But the reason I'm making this video is because I want to remind everybody that the playoffs have unofficially started. Unofficially, because when you just look at today's slate of games alone, there are a lot of playoff implications. Of course, things are in flux, so things can change immediately, but with the 76ers winning and the Brooklyn Nets losing, the 76ers are now a half game away from taking the 1 seed. That's big. That's home court advantage for the entire conference play. That's big. The Celtics win, the Atlanta Hawks lose. Now they're tied in the win and the loss column, potentially trying to fight for that 5 seed. The Spurs lose. That's big time for the Grizzlies, who win. The Wizards win, and now they got like 3 games above the 11 seed. It's official. It's done. I'm calling it right now, Bulls fans. I know you already came to this realization, but it is officially from me. We're not making the playoffs this season because the Wizards are better than us and we suck. The Trailblazers win, which is funny because last time we talked, we were talking about the Trailblazers being bad. And I think at the end of that rant about them being bad, I was like, but you know what? Damian Lillard can turn it on, and then they immediately win a couple games, and that's exactly what they did. They're on a 3-game losing streak, three-game winning streak since that. And then the Suns take the 1 seed from the Utah Jazz. Like I said, all of this is in flux, but this is what I'm just saying to you. With little runway left, with the season being wrapped up in just a couple weeks, these games matter more than ever. So you should be tuned in and really paying attention to your favorite team because, hey, man, one loss can put them in an unfavorable matchup once playoff time comes around. Now, I don't have to worry about that because my team's not working in that playoff, so I can watch objectively again because, like I said, I'm canceling the Bulls for this season. Let's start off talking about Jayson Tatum. Talking about the Boston Celtics because I'm giving you homework or I'm giving you a chore, y'all. Because the way I watch basketball, when there's so many games at the same time, once one game is a blowout early on, typically I stop watching that game. Because in my mind, when you're down by 35, the game is over. Like traditionally. You know what I'm saying? But if my homework to you, if a team has started to put together a comeback after being blown out, please tweet at me. Let me know. Because I was completely unaware of what the Boston Celtics were doing until the game was over. I got a Bleacher Report notification saying that the Celtics won the game. I was like, so I did go back and rewatch it. I rewatched the second half specifically. And what surprised the heck out of me watching, I knew that Jayson Tatum was ended with 60. I knew that the Boston Celtics were going to win this game, but I was still at the edge of my seat. But what was surprising me, and listen, I will never tell Greg Popovich how to coach a basketball game. He is the greatest coach of all time, if you ask me. But I don't know how the heck this man Jayson Tatum has what? He at the 45-point mark. And he is still in man-to-man coverage. He ain't throwing no doubles. And it's not even just that he was a man-to-man. He was a man-to-man with, Lonnie Walker, who ain't a bad defender. But I feel like I did not see many times, at least in the second half, where DeJounte Murray had the Jayson Tatum assignment. DeJounte Murray was all defensive player like 2-3 years ago, and he don't get no assignment on the hottest man on the team right now, especially since it was really the Jayson Tatum show. Jaylen Brown could not score other than that one big-time dagger in the fourth quarter, and Aaron Nesmith had so many great plays, so many big hustle plays. Shout out to him. I love that he's carving his way into the rotation because when I talked to him after draft night, I knew for a fact that he was an NBA player, and I can't say the same thing about every rookie that I've talked to. I knew he was an NBA player. I just didn't know how much of an impact he would be able to make on his rookie season, and now he's slowly finding his way in the rotation, and today he was their second best player. He was their second most impactful player other than Jayson Tatum. But I don't know how DeJounte Murray don't get that excitement, especially since DeJounte couldn't score in the second half. So I was thinking, hey, if he's not going to contribute offensively as far as scoring the ball, let me put him on their best player. But nope, the only time it felt like Jayson Tatum was being double teamed was like on a pick and roll where they kind of did this hard hedge situation, and it was just like nothing. I mean, if you're gonna single-handedly let Jayson Tatum destroy you, go ahead by any means. But it was just, what a comeback, bro. What a comeback. And you know what the fans boo? Celtics fans will 76ers fans will tell you that booing your home team can work out, bro. It can. I feel like every time the 76ers have been booed by their own fans, at least when it comes to last season when fans were plentiful, they end up winning that game. And it's just so now the Bulls fans, once we can finally get in there on the 7th, just boo them from the beginning, and that's how we get back in the playoffs. Somebody on Twitter was like, Kenny, you only talk about the Spurs when the Spurs are bad. And I'm not even going to talk about the Spurs. They blew a lead. They blew a historic lead. I don't even know what to say about it. You know what I'm saying? One thing I did take away, I heard on the broadcast that in the month of April, DeMar DeRozan had been the clutchest player in the NBA. And that was something I wouldn't have known. The Spurs are always under the radar, man. They just always are. And it's unfortunate they were the team to give up this historic night. But I'm going to leave it at that. And we'll talk about the Spurs again later when they're in the play-in, because it seems like the Western Conference 10 is set. I don't believe that the Pelicans have it in them to take it. So the Western Conference 10 is set. It's just a matter of who's the 7th seed, who's the 8th seed, so on and so forth. Shout out to Jayson Tatum, man. Big time game. Because when I was watching this, if I'm not mistaken, he scored like the first 12 points for the team. And so I knew it was a Jayson Tatum day. It just felt like nobody else was going to show up. And I guess that still kind of was the case, but they ended up getting a win. Great defensive performance by them to completely shut down the Spurs in that second half. The next game I want to talk about, again, not a lot to even talk about other than the games mattering. I want to talk about the Suns. Unfortunately for NBA fans, you got the two top teams in the Western Conference going head-to-head in a battle for the 1 seed. It is what this was, essentially. And Donovan Mitchell can't play. It's unfortunate because without Donovan Mitchell, obviously the Utah Jazz are nearly as impactful of an offensive team. And they lose. They lose dramatically, or not dramatically, drastically, because Devin Booker drops 31, had Rudy Gobert in the blender. And I understand people don't like Rudy Gobert because he doesn't score the ball often, and he did the mic touching thing right before the league got shut down. People don't believe he's a great defender, and I just don't understand how they can say that without watching. You know, that just tells me they're not watching games. Of course, he can't guard Devin Booker in a one-on-one situation. I don't know how many people can. I don't know how many 7'1" people can stay in front of Devin Booker. It's got to be a league of one or a league of zero, and Rudy Gobert's not one. The Suns take the 1 seed, and I've been seeing over the past couple weeks a lot of talk about Christopher Emmanuel Paul being in MVP conversations. And obviously, as the biggest Christopher Paul fan on the planet, I love the idea of him being in the conversation. Of course, it just helps his legacy long term. I mean, I guess he don't need his legacy to be helped because he's a bona fide Hall of Famer. He's a top 5 point guard of all time. But I also see some people pushing back on the idea of Devin Booker. I mean, of Chris Paul being the conversation. And I'm here to break it down to you. He's not going to win the award. Jokic has the award on lock, if you ask me. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But when I say Chris Paul being in the conversations, I'm kind of thinking about it like he's number 5 on the ballot. Is that crazy to think about? Here's why. People are looking at what the Suns did in the bubble of them being 8-0 and be like, bro, their breakout year was going to happen. You saw what they did in the bubble, and you know what? That is facts. Their breakout year was coming. But you can't tell me that they were going to be the 1 seed without a Chris Paul trade. I think without Chris Paul, they could have been the playoff team. But Chris Paul is the best ceiling raiser or best floor. I guess you can give him both floor and ceiling raiser in the NBA. One of them. You know, they could have been on the road to the playoffs, but Chris Paul put them not on the road to the playoffs, but on the road to contention, on the road to being the 1 seed in the entire NBA. So that's why Chris Paul deserves to be in this conversation. And not even just that. I mean, in the last week alone, he has had big moments to close out games. I can think of 5 games where Chris Paul has closed out. Now, this not like I've been seeing some people say that since Chris Paul is in the MVP conversation, it's taken away from what Devin Booker is doing. It's taken away from what James Jones is doing. It's taken away from Monty Williams. And I don't think that's the case at all. Because, of course, you need all of them to be good for this team to be the 1 seed. But, again, it's about the floor and the ceiling raising, and that is Chris Paul. This team moves differently this year. That is Chris Paul's imprint. This team is moving dramatically different this year, and that is because of Chris Paul. Devin Booker deserves a lot of love, too. He's not going to be in the MVP conversation. But if we talk at top 10, top 11, top 20, Devin Booker deserves to have some love as well, obviously. Because he's that punch, that firepower. But the leader, in the moments, a lot of those go to Chris Paul right now. I love watching the Phoenix Suns. I've said that many, many times. I just wish that Donovan Mitchell was here. Because I do want to see these two teams play against each other when they're completely healthy. Because last time they did, before today, it was like a bona fide classic. And today it wasn't. And when I'm looking at tomorrow's slate of games, I'm super excited. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to have to miss a lot of these because my mom is getting married. I wanted to make a video yesterday about like Kevin Porter Jr. dropping 50. Tim Hardaway Jr. had like 42. Alizé Johnson had a 2020 game. There was a lot of big games yesterday, and it got overshadowed because the NFL draft was happening, and I wanted to record a video, but that second COVID shot took me out, bro. The vaccine shot took me out, and I didn't have the energy to. I'm just kind of rambling. Go watch Call Game, bro. Every Wednesday. Next episode is Meta World Peace. I don't know if I'm supposed to tell you that, but I'm gonna tell you that anyway. So when I drop the teaser on Twitter or Instagram and say, guess who? Y'all act dumb, please. Don't tell my managers that I told you. Okay, Call Game.